The first thing our realtor said after handing us the keys was, "Whatever you do, don't answer if someone knocks on the basement door from the inside." She laughed after saying it. I wish she hadn't. Buying our first home was supposed to be the beginning of our new life. Instead, it became the last normal decision we ever made. My name is Daniel, and my wife Emily and I moved into an old Victorian house outside a quiet town in Ohio. The place was surprisingly cheap, less than half the market price. The realtor explained that the previous owners had died years ago, and no one had wanted the property since. "It's just an old house with old stories," she said. I believed her. I shouldn't have. The house sat at the end of a dead-end road, surrounded by dying maple trees whose branches scraped against the windows every night. The moment we stepped inside, something felt wrong. Not dangerous, just occupied. Every room carried the strange sensation that someone had stood there only seconds before we arrived. Emily laughed it off. "Old houses have personalities." I smiled, but the smile disappeared the first night. At exactly 2:13 a.m., footsteps echoed upstairs. Heavy, slow, back and forth, back and forth. We assumed it was the wood settling, until we realized we were already sleeping upstairs. The footsteps were above us. The attic. The next morning I searched it. Dust covered everything. No footprints. No animals. Nothing. Still, I installed a security camera. The footage from that night made my blood freeze. At 2:13 a.m., someone walked across the attic. Not a shadow. Not a blur. A man. Tall. Wearing suspenders and a black hat. The camera glitched every time his face turned toward it. Then the recording ended. The camera never worked again. Our neighbors became increasingly strange whenever the house was mentioned. An elderly woman named Martha crossed herself. "You moved into the Holloway house?" I nodded. She stared at me for several seconds. "Did they tell you about the family?" "What family?" "The one that never left." Before I could ask another question, she hurried inside her home and locked the door. That evening, Emily found an old family portrait hidden behind a loose wall panel. 7 people stood in front of our house. Father, mother, 3 children, grandmother, a baby. Everyone smiled, except the father. Someone had scratched his eyes completely out of the photograph. Written on the back were 4 words. "We are still home." Things escalated quickly. Cabinet doors opened by themselves. Lights switched off. Every clock inside the house stopped at exactly 2:13. Even our phones froze for 67 seconds every night. Exactly 67. Always. Emily started hearing whispers. At first they sounded distant. Soon they became clearer. "They're saying." She stopped talking. "What?" "They keep asking why we're sleeping in their room." I tried to ignore it, until I found muddy footprints. Inside the hallway, they led from the basement to our bedroom. There were no prints leading back. The basement had always bothered me. It smelled like wet soil. The walls seemed colder than the rest of the house. In one corner stood an old wooden door secured with 6 rusted locks. None of them matched. Above it someone had carved, "Don't open after sunset." Naturally, I assumed it was some kind of prank. I removed one lock, then another. Before I reached the third, someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. From the other side, Emily screamed upstairs. I slammed the lock back into place. The knocking stopped immediately. That night we heard voices. Not whispers. Conversations. An entire family talking downstairs. Someone laughed. Children ran across the floor. Plates clinked. A rocking chair creaked. When I finally gathered enough courage to look, the kitchen was empty, except for the dining table. It had been set for 7 people. Our plates were included. We decided to leave. The next morning, we packed everything into the truck. As soon as we reached the driveway, the engine died. Battery was fine. Fuel tank was full. Nothing worked. Our phones showed no service. Then Emily pointed toward the second-floor window. Someone stood behind the curtain, watching us. The same man from the attic camera. Hat, suspenders, no face, just smooth skin where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. He slowly waved. Our truck started immediately after he disappeared. We drove straight to a motel. That night we finally slept peacefully, until Emily woke screaming. Mud covered her feet. The motel room floor was soaked. Fresh footprints stretched from our bed to the bathroom. Inside the mirror someone had written, "You left." We didn't. The local library held newspaper archives dating back over a century. That's where we learned the truth. In 1926, the Holloway family disappeared overnight. Police found dinner still warm, beds unmade, every door locked from the inside. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just 7 muddy footprints leading into the basement. None leading out. The case was never solved. We contacted a paranormal investigator. He refused immediately after hearing the address. "I've been there. What happened?" He hesitated. "I counted 9 people inside, but only 7 disappeared." "I know. Who were the other 2? Silence. Then he whispered, "The new owners." He hung up. Emily wanted to burn the house down. I agreed. Gasoline soaked every room. I lit the match. The fire exploded instantly. Flames swallowed the entire structure within minutes. We watched from across the road, relieved, until the smoke cleared. The house was gone. But the family remained. 7 figures stood exactly where the front porch had been, watching us, perfectly still. Then, one by one, they smiled. Authorities ruled the fire accidental. Insurance paid almost nothing. Everyone believed the nightmare had ended. It hadn't, because every house we looked at afterward already had someone living inside. Not people. Them. Standing silently in windows. Watching. Waiting. No matter which city. No matter which state. Always 7 figures. Always smiling. A year later, Emily disappeared. There was no sign of forced entry. No struggle. Only muddy footprints. Leading toward our basement. The basement in our new home. A basement we had never opened before. I sold the house the following week. The new owners moved in 2 months later. Young couple. Expecting their first child. They seemed happy. Hopeful. Exactly like we had been. I wanted to warn them. I really did. But then I noticed something behind their living room window. Emily. She stood beside 6 strangers. Smiling. She slowly lifted one finger to her lips, telling me not to speak. If you're reading this because you found an unbelievably cheap Victorian house somewhere in Ohio, do yourself one favor. Ask the realtor one simple question. Why did the previous owners leave? And if they smile before answering, walk away, because they didn't leave. They're still waiting for someone to come home.